If you don't know what your why is, meaning why are we going to homeschool, then when you as a family meet resistance, it is easier to give up. And you will meet resistance when you're homeschooled.
Yes.
When we felt overwhelmed, when we felt discouraged, when we felt like all is lost and we're complete failures, we were able to go back to, okay, why are we doing this?
Well, hey, we are so glad to have you with us today. Welcome to the Colorado Homeschool Podcast. We have our guest today, Pastor Patrick Hayes. Boy, that's kind of a tongue twister.
Yeah, a lot of P's in there.
Patrick is fabulous. I think you're going to really enjoy what we have to talk about today. He is obviously, I said, a pastor, but also a homeschool father of 6. And when I met Pastor Hayes, is that how you are referred to generally?
No, let's just go with Patrick. Yeah.
Patrick. Okay.
Yep,
When I met
I'm not
Patrick,
pretentious at all.
yes. I loved his enthusiasm. I loved his heart for homeschooling, and he immediately jumped in and said, how can I help you? So Patrick is also one of our ambassadors. So I'm very excited. We're going to talk a little bit about how you met CHEC and how you got involved with our organization while you were a young man. So Patrick, nice to meet you. Thank you for being here. And I think I neglected to add Patrick's wife, Joanna. They've been married for 19 years. But Patrick, can you take us back to, were you about 19? How old were you when you first discovered CHEC?
Okay, so I was married at 26 years old. So I think I was probably 23, maybe even, I think I was probably 22 or 23. And I was part of a home fellowship. I was kind of looking for a church at the time. And this group, I really liked them. The family was just great. They had 4 kids. They homeschooled. And when the CHEC conference over, I'm going to say in Denver because I don't remember where it was, but over on that side of the state was coming up, the mom and the dad and the kids were like, oh, you got to come with us. You got to come with us. You're going to love it. And my first thought was, okay, well, that sounds great, but I don't know if you guys remember this, but I'm not married. I don't have any kids. And they're like, no. You're going to love it just because you're going to be around a bunch of people that are like-minded. You're going to love the preaching. They said, you're going to love it. You got to come. So I said, okay, let's go ahead and do it. And I went to my first CHEC conference and I did. I loved it. I met a whole bunch of people that had similar beliefs as I did. And what I kind of learned over the years is as a Christian, you're already part of a minority. And then if you are a Christian who takes the Bible seriously and then you're part of a strange and weird minority. And then if you're a Christian who takes the Bible seriously and want to homeschool your kids, then you're basically a crazy person and a danger to society. So for me,
I mean, we're laughing, but there's some truth to that, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there are some folks that look at us as pretty weird. So for me, I was just really excited to be around a lot of like-minded people. I felt comfortable around them, and it was a real relief.
Nice. So being that they were like-minded in believing the Bible was applicable and valid for today, and you didn't just come once, right? You came to our conference, didn't you come for a few years?
It was definitely 2 times. It might have been 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. That is so encouraging to me because that is really, if you listen to our mission statement, is that we envision families honoring Jesus Christ by embracing home discipleship that is Christ-centered, parent-directed, and free from government control. The word homeschooling is not in there. So we see it as like the calling to raise your children and to be engaged in training them up in the way they should go, right? And at the point that you met CHEC, you were a new believer. I think you just left that out, but is that correct in my understanding of your story?
Oh, yeah. I only started reading the Bible, come to church, got to know Jesus, put my faith in him just in the last year or 2.
Wow. That's amazing.
I was not raised in a Christian home. And when I was given the Bible, I read all the way through it very quickly. I had a million questions. And I very quickly knew that this was going to be something that was important in my life and was going to direct my life. So I kind of really jumped in with both feet. And honestly, getting to a homeschool conference was great because really people at homeschool conferences typically what I found are going to be folks that they go through the Bible, they take it seriously, they find that God gives them a calling to run their family in a certain way, raise their children in a certain way, and very quickly they come to the conclusion that the best way I can do that is obviously not sending my kids to government schools, but by educating them, ourselves. So, like I said, I kind of found my pack. But yes, I was a new believer of only a year or two.
Wow. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's awesome. So it sounds like it planted a seed in you because now you are a father of 6 that are also homeschooling. So can you tell me how that impacted you as a young man, like in looking for a spouse? And was that part of the thing that became like a mission or a goal? Or was it just like, no, I'm just doing what God has asked me to do one step at a time? How did that progress for you?
Well, like you said, today I'm a pastor of a church. We started 5 years ago. Now we have 6 kids. They've all been homeschooled. And I should say our kids range from 18 down to 10. So we're not through it. We're right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
We have, kids in the earlier stages and some that are all the way through. But back then I was single. I had no kids. I was not active in any ministry. And to be honest, I was kind of looking for a church that I felt comfortable in. So homeschooling our kids has really changed my life for the better and prepared me to be a pastor, because my idea at the time, which was, yeah, I think homeschooling would probably be best. When I went to the conference, that idea moved over to my kids will attend public school over my dead body. And that happened at the CHEC conference where I really got the vision. And okay, if this doesn't date me a little bit, I took home from that conference cassette tapes and CDs, and then listened to some of the speakers from the CHEC conference from years past. And it
Right.
really cemented, my belief in this is really, really important. This isn't like, oh, this might be, a better idea. For me, now it was a conviction like, no, this is one of the foundational principles of my family. So when I was, hoping and praying and seeking to find a wife, right? I think the Bible says, for he that findeth a wife findeth a good thing and
Good
obtaineth
thing.
the favor of the
Yeah.
Lord. So I knew that I wanted to be married and have a family. And for me, that was kind of one of the, I don't know, questions on the, in the interview
On the
process.
interview.
And if you've never
Yeah.
thought about it, or you had no thoughts at all about homeschooling,
Sure.
or you were like, oh, I don't want to do that. I want the kids gone at school. For me, it was like, okay, thanks for the answer, God. That's an easy one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So I want to back up a little bit because you said it became imperative for you. Like the way you put it was like over my dead body. Can
Yes.
you unpack that? Why did it become a conviction? What was it about the vision? And what would you define that vision as?
So for me, I had it pointed out to me through the scriptures that we are given the mandate to teach our kids. And it is a broad mandate, although it is clearly we are to teach our kids and raise our kids spiritually.
About the Lord, right?
You got it. It also gives us the idea that we as parents are the ones that are in charge of our kids. We're the ones that need to make decisions for our kids. I'm going to go forward a couple years to we are married, and my wife and I have talked about homeschooling, and she's in favor of it. But now it's like, okay, now we're pregnant and we're having a kid come, and we really, need to figure some of this out. What we ended up doing was we took a challenge that I was given at the conference, and that was to define why. Why is
I love
homeschooling
that.
important? Okay.
Yes.
So we needed to figure out why was it important in our lives. So what we ended up doing was we made a list. We said, okay, what are the skills we want our kids to have when they're, grown-ups? Okay. So when they're ready to move on with their life and step out of the house, what skills do we want them to have? What attributes do we want them to have? And we made this long list, and then we looked at it and we thought to ourselves, they're not going to learn any of this stuff in the government schools. Literally none of it.
Can you give me an example? What was some of the things that you put on there?
Sure. Some of the things we put on our list was we want them to be honest. We want them to be hardworking. We want them to be able to manage money well. We wanted them to have people skills and communication skills. Then on the spiritual side, we wanted them to love God, and we wanted them to have a disciplined, Bible reading, lifestyle and
Mm-hmm.
schedule and plan in their life every day. We wanted them to take sharing the gospel seriously. And when we went through all of these different skills, we thought to ourselves, and keep in mind, I went to public school my whole life. So did my wife.
Right.
So when we
Sure.
went through this, we're like, well, did you learn any of that? And they're like, no. And my wife didn't learn
Definitely not.
any of it either. So we thought, okay, well, they're probably still not going to be teaching that, in the schools today. So we're going to have to homeschool our kids if we're going
Mm-hmm.
to want to set them up for what we believed was going to be, success.
Right. I love that. You met me at what we call whistle stop tours, where we take CHEC and we do a little event all across the state. And we went over to Grand Junction, which is where we met. And my purpose there is to talk about the homeschool vision. And I think that having a vision statement is the first thing that every homeschool family should do. And I'm saddened because when I do, I mean, this is anecdotal evidence, but when I poll the audience, I would say
Mhm.
maybe 10% do. And so 90% are just doing it. And today, maybe before, when I homeschooled, my children are young adults now, it was a little different. Like we didn't have as many possibilities and options. And so I got to homeschool basically with very few parameters, very few things that I could change. But today you can kind of outsource homeschooling. Like you could not be home. You can be in this program and that program and this program and that program. And before you know it, you're kind of doing I don't know, almost like college, a university model where you're just facilitating all the classes, and it's very easy to get off track. So what you're saying is so important, and writing it down and evaluating it, plus coming up with those convictions. So as you guys did that, do you feel like that process of doing it with your wife refined your resolve, or did it help her come on board with the resolve as well?
Well, it helped in a couple ways. Number one, if you don't know what your why is, then when you meet resistance, it will be easier to give up. And
Yeah,
everyone
say it
meets resistance.
again.
If you don't know what your why is, meaning why are we going to homeschool, then when you as a family meet resistance, it is easier to give up. And you
Yep.
will meet resistance when you're homeschooling.
Yes.
It's a difficult job. It's a difficult process. So that was one thing. Number two, it gave us something to go back to. So when we felt overwhelmed, when we felt discouraged, when we felt like all is lost and we're complete failures, we were able to go back to, okay, why are we doing this? And
Right.
when we looked at it, we're like, you know what? All these things that we want our kids to become, we're actually doing pretty good in those things. Now, one kid just happens to be terrible at math, and another kid happens to be terrible at reading. And you let those things get in the way of
Mm-hmm.
what the real mission is. And what we want for our kids in the end is success. And I hate to say this, your kid is going to learn how to read. Now, we would love it if they learned how to read at the age when the state of Colorado tells us they should read, but that does not matter. If they learn how to
Right.
read the next year, that's fine. They're still reading. So that was something we had to remember. We could look back on our why do we do this? And we could say, you know what? Our kids aren't succeeding in this area and this area and this area, even though one of them, as a 16-year-old spells like a 10-year-old, they're still hardworking and honest and kind people who love God. And
Yeah.
we're thinking we're doing fine.
Yeah. Well, I always tell families, first of all, have you looked at the statistics, the CMAS scores for the public school student? They're not doing well. They're really not. Like less than half are reading, I think it's 40, maybe less than 38% or something that are reading at grade level when they graduate. So graduation rates have gone up, but they're just graduating functionally illiterate people, which is like, come on. So the bar is pretty low. And standardized tests have proven that homeschool students do well, exceed far better on those standardized tests, which is amazing. But yeah, it's a different paradigm and shifting those ideas. I think I tell a story that you heard me share when I was homeschooling with my son. It was so much more difficult to get him to read than my daughter. And I was playing that game, that comparison game, feeling like a failure. And I hit rock bottom. It was realizing, wait a minute, my son is thriving in other areas. He did get it. We persevered and we worked through it. So I think we need to have that. And you're right. When the trials come, when it's difficult, when you have those tears over math or whatever it may be, right? It was over reading for us, but so very good. I love the way that you unpack that. So in our world today, do you think that there is more reason to prevent your children from going to government schools, or do you feel like, nah, it's the same? God is the same yesterday, today, and forever.
Is that a joke? Are you kidding me? Yes, it's getting.
Come on, Patrick. I'm teeing you up. Tell us.
That's a softball. Just swing away, Patrick. It is so much worse today than it was when I was in public school.
Mhm.
I don't know how graphic you want me to get. I will have conversations with parents who are thinking about homeschooling. My wife and I have those conversations all the time. We have moved into the stage of homeschooling parents where we are now sent prospective homeschooling parents, and they're like, look,
Okay.
you got to go talk to Patrick and Joanna. Okay, you're thinking about doing it. Go talk to them. Because really, one thing that's super helpful is when you're thinking about homeschooling or you start homeschooling, you have a couple of wise old dragons that can direct the grasshoppers into their new, into their new lifestyle.
Yes.
And we had those, and we've now become those. So when I have the conversations with parents of, oh, we're thinking about homeschooling and I'm not sure if we should do it, I have very frank, very graphic conversations about what goes on in the public schools. One of my friends was an investigator for the Colorado State Patrol, and he finished up an investigation on middle school, 7th and 8th grade kids being given methamphetamines from their parents, bringing them to school, then doing the sale at the school, giving them to the other kids who would bring them home to their parents. And you would not believe the number of students, parents, teachers that were involved in this. And the day he was done with the investigation and turned in all of his paperwork, he went to his wife and he said, take them out of school today. And she literally drove to the school and got their 2 sons, and they never went back to school. And that's only, one idea on the criminal side. There is the morality of it, the sexuality, licentiousness, lasciviousness of the schools, and what is being pushed on the kids nowadays is insane. The level of education is just a joke. Less than 1/3 of all 8th graders in America are proficient in any subject. And that, by the way, is using some of the most dumbed down standards in the history of Western society. Okay. And that's not just Patrick making this up or watching a YouTube video. Okay. The National Assessment of Educational Progress, it is released every 2 years by the federal government. You can go on there and you can read it. It is public knowledge. The public schools are failing just on an educational standard by every metric.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing that I like to say, because I have good friends who are teachers and principals, and they're like, well, we're doing, we're working, and
we're working hard, doing the best we can.
But the system is set up to separate child from family. And that's where I think the danger is. Even if they get a great academic education, which, there are students that do get a great, I think my daughter, she would have thrived in that kind of environment. She would do fine. She loved the worksheets in this lecture format, but it isn't custom. But have you ever heard of John Taylor Gatto?
Oh yeah.
He wrote a book called Weapons. Yeah, he wrote a book called Weapons of Mass Destruction. He wrote another one, Underground History of Modern Education. I mean, a lot of what he has written is like, I wouldn't even call him a believer. I don't think he is a believer, but the stuff that he unfolds about the education system alone and the way that we learn and this mob mentality that it's creating, and literally that's where I go, man, you get it. This is why we see cry rooms at colleges and why we see, I mean, it's true, right? Because they're not
I'm with you.
that grinding and that, the conversation and the discourse and the critical thinking is lacking. That's what grieves me. So I love the homeschool movement because I see it as the revival that really can transform and change. It's grassroots. It's mom and dad. It's how God designed it, right?
Yeah, I see that homeschooling is the number one quickest way for Christians in America to save the country. Okay, faster than voting in any politician, which, by the way, will never fix the country. Faster than joining any group. Okay, and don't get me wrong, we should all go and vote. We should all, get the best people in there we can. I'm just saying that it won't do what you want it to do. What God says is required for us.
If my people would humble themselves, and yeah.
Yep. Okay. God says in 2 Chronicles 7:14, if you do 4 things, I will do 3. We are currently going through the book of Joel in my church right now. We teach the Bible in an expository manner. We just take a book and go chapter by chapter. We're going through the book of Joel, and again, he says, you want to fix the problem? It's easy. Call a solemn assembly, start to fast, cry unto the Lord, turn from your wickedness. God gives the same solution to the Christians again and again and again, and it's never vote for politicians. So if you want to change the world, it's easy. Just bulldoze every public school and make everyone start homeschooling their kids, and America would be fixed in 1 generation.
Yeah.
It's really that easy.
That book, The Weapons of Math, I'm reading it right now, so it's fresh. But he talks a lot about how there's this trap of becoming consumers instead of producers and thinkers, right? And I see that in America, we need the greatest, brandest, newest, all the shiny, right? And the 2 income trap. We're tomorrow, when we're recording this, we're doing an event where we serve single moms who are homeschooling. And so let's talk about that. Were there, because you started with this premise, I think this is important. We're going to have to do this. How did this impact your family? Were there things like finances that you had to go through, and how did you guys address those issues to make homeschooling possible?
Okay, that's a really great point, and it needs to be taught at every single homeschool conference, and it needs to be talked about constantly. The traditional way you're going to homeschool is you're going to have a single income family and one parent is going to stay home. That doesn't have to be the way that you do it, but it just typically ends up being the way that it works. For a 2 income family, 2 people that have full-time jobs, the mom and the dad, to be able to spend the time that they need to with the kids, it's very, very difficult, and it's very, very rare. So because of that, if you want to set yourself up for success as a homeschool family, and really if you want to set yourself up as a Christian, for success, you need to live well below your means. You need to stay out of debt. You need to live on a budget. You need to have your finances set. And I was very fortunate that before I ever even got saved, I had someone when I was 20 years old hand me a Dave Ramsey book. And they said, read this book, do everything it says. You'll thank me in 20 years. And I did. I started doing exactly what he said. He has very simple principles. They're all lined up with the Bible. Stay out of debt, live on a budget, live below your means, save money, invest for the future. And my family started doing that. So when we got married, I didn't bring a lot of assets to the table, but I was debt free and I owned a Ford Ranger outright. Okay. My wife, she's the one with the degree. I do not have a college degree. And my wife brought to the table, I think, like $20,000 of college debt that we had to pay off over time. But we lived by those principles and we got on a budget. And because of that, we were always able to homeschool. Now, we moved into a 100-year-old house. That was a 900 square foot 2-bedroom house. It was not fancy. It was not, impressive by any means, but it was fine. We were happy. The kids were happy. And unfortunately, what you mentioned in the book that you read by Gatto is that the consumer side of Americans is that we want the new shiny things that impress everyone. And we've heard about this. It's keeping up with the Joneses. And the basic, just stupid principle that every American lives by is we buy things we don't need with money that we don't have to impress people that we don't like.
That is a Dave Ramsey quote right
It
there.
And if people are going to continue to do that, they're not going to be able to do a lot of things in their life because they're going to be so burdened down with this debt and always trying to, impress everyone with their financial success. So my wife and I, we didn't care about that. Okay, don't get me wrong. We like nice things. We just couldn't afford them, so we didn't buy them. And if you live like that for 20 years, then all of a sudden you turn around and it's like, holy cow, all of a sudden now we can buy something shiny. So if families are not willing to get their finances in order, they're always going to struggle to homeschool because they're not going to be willing to have one parent stay home and do the majority, the lion's share of the homeschooling. So the financial aspect of living within your means is paramount to being or to having the opportunity to be a successful homeschool family.
Yeah. Can we unpack this a little bit? Since you said that you're in a position where people who are considering homeschooling come to you. So do you help families that are, because I don't know if you know, I think Colorado is 9th most expensive place to live in the United States. Yeah. And so I hear that all the time. Well, you need 2 incomes, you have to. And my husband and I, 1 income, right? But we always had little side hustle things, like little entrepreneurial experiences that we were doing to bring in a little bit, even if it was $500 or something. Yeah. Throughout our life, we always did little things. So how do you help somebody who comes to you and let's say that they are living on 2 incomes and their cost of living is this high? Have you helped them make some changes?
So the problem is most people are not willing to make a painful enough change to be able to do what they want. So the question is, how bad do you want to homeschool? Is it everything in the world to you? Okay, well then
starting with that why again.
You got it. Then if that's the case, you can get there. Okay, quit one of your jobs or get a part-time job. Well, then we can't afford this house. Then sell the house. Well, we like the house. Well, then pick the house. I can't help you any further than that. You might have to, cut off the sick and dying appendage to save the body. There's triage involved. A lot of people aren't willing to do that, but everyone, here's the thing. Okay. Let's fast forward let's go to that family. Okay. They got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old or a newborn and a 2-year-old, and they're thinking about homeschooling and they come to us. 25 years from that day, the parents are not going to care about the fancy house.
What house they lived in.
You got it. They are going to care about their children who love God. They're going to care about their children who have work ethic and are kind and have met a spouse who brings honor to the Lord and will be an encouragement to their child. That's what they want more than anything in the world. But the riches of this world are currently drawing us away from what we all know will truly make us happy one day. Okay, I got to read this. My 2 youngest were literally reading this with me in our morning Bible reading around the dining room table this morning. In the book of 3 John, verse 4, I have no greater joy than to hear that my children walk in truth. Jesus said in John chapter 17, thy word is truth. Jesus said in John chapter 14, I am the truth. We know what will make us happy in the end. And that is our children who have married a great spouse and their entire family loves the Lord and they're walking with God. Now, would it be nice if they had a 6-figure income? Sure. Would it be nice if we all lived in a really big, nice, fancy, shiny house? Sure. But I hate to tell you, you ready for this? You like the quote from before? Listen to this. Yeah. This is going to be your new favorite quote. Rich people have only one advantage over the poor. And that is that they have already learned that money does not make them happy.
Yep.
That is the only advantage the rich have. Everyone is seeking to get there, thinking that if I only find riches, then I'll be happy. And the rich are looking back thinking, no, I'm already here. Let me tell you, it doesn't make me happy.
Right.
Every single person, every single Christian wants their children to be close to God, married to a spouse who is close to God and walking with the Lord. They know that that is what's going to truly make them happy. But cares of this world. So do I have that conversation with young couples? Yep. Do they like it? No.
Yeah.
But
Right.
it's honesty.
And
It's not, not calling
exactly.
what they
It
want.
is speaking as somebody whose children are, young adults, and I have grandkids. I tell people, listen, it's the only thing in life you can't do over. Like the time that you commit to raising your children is the time that you have, and whether you do it well or you just barely get by or whatever. And that is not to add any condemnation or criticism, because listen, we don't need to
You have
walk
to
in
make your own
condemnation.
choices. Yep.
Right.
Okay. But can I correct one idea? I want to give you a
Sure.
thought. You said it's
Okay.
the one thing it's the one thing you only get to do once, right? Raise your kids. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, if you do it really poorly, you actually get a second chance, because when your kids are not able to raise their own kids, they pawn them off on you.
Oh, well,
And you
I
get a
have
second
seen that.
chance. Yep.
I have seen that.
I've seen it
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah, that's true. I know. I always feel like I need to add a caveat though, because the last thing I want is to sound like we're saying, hey, if you do this, your kids are going to all love Jesus. It's going to be perfect.
Yeah.
And that is not the guarantee. I mean, look at Adam and Eve, who had the perfect environment in the Garden of Eden. And what I love to say, and if you've listened to this podcast, you probably have heard me say it, there are no grandkids in heaven. Every person has to make that decision. So we have a responsibility to train our children up, to point them to live by demonstrating faith, right?
Yeah.
To let our children see us doing it. And hopefully they make that choice as well. And I'm praying and trying to be faithful. My children are walking with the Lord. Hallelujah. Because that statement is so true. There's nothing greater than to see that.
And I should add something to that. It's very important that everyone knows that homeschooling in and of itself is not the solution. It's part of I believe it's part of the solution. But just because you homeschool does not mean that that's it and your kids are going to be exactly the way you want. It's one ingredient in many required, to get the cookies that you want. So you need that. I think it's very important that you have that ingredient. But some people have that idea like, oh yeah, if we just homeschool our kids, then everything's going to be fine. No, there's a lot more we got to do. But it's a very important piece of the puzzle, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it is, you're right. It's just a piece of the puzzle. It's just one thing that we can do and be faithful with. So yeah, well, I think this was delightful. I appreciated having a conversation with you, and I'm passionate about it too. I want to see, I start to hear about things that are happening in the public school system, and it just makes me furious. It makes me so angry that Satan is going to try to steal, kill, and destroy our children, and successful in a lot of ways. But God is on the throne. And I hope that somebody listening to this is encouraged, not discouraged, doesn't feel like, well, darn, I blew it, because it's not too late. Do it today. Do it tomorrow. You can do this. You can homeschool, and it makes a difference, right? Not being perfect, but training your children in what God is teaching you, even bringing them into that relationship. I love it. So, Patrick, we like to close out all of our interviews by asking every homeschool parent, what is your best or favorite homeschool tip? Could be related to our vision or not.
Okay. Best homeschool tip. I might try to give you 2 or 3 really quickly. Okay. So number 1, when in doubt, do not imitate the public schools. So many times homeschool parents, when they're not sure what to do and they're like, oh, should we do it like this? Should we do it like that? We automatically revert back to the way we did it when we were in public school.
Yep.
Do not do that.
It's a different paradigm.
You got it. When in doubt, just do the exact opposite of what the public schools do. You'll probably do okay.
Okay.
Number 2, for discouraged moms, you are probably doing way better than you think. Okay. Along the lines of the mom that is discouraged, husbands, step it up. Your job is to be a cheerleader. Your job is to have regular meetings to help with problems that come up, and to plan and to keep that vision in front of you and your wife. Okay. And I found out that was a big part of my job as a husband. So just make sure that you're there to lend the support, and you got to be the cheerleader. That's all I can think of.
Man, can I just say, we could have a whole podcast about that
Oh, yeah.
because trying to get the husbands on board. And I remember when we first started, I would have a bad day and say something to my husband. He's like, well, you could put the kids in school. And it was like, that's not the answer. That's
Oh,
not what I need. And it didn't take long. It was probably within our second year, maybe, when my husband finally got the vision, and it was his vision. And he was
sure.
like, okay, let's deal with this. But early on, it was experimental in his eyes, I think. So yeah, it makes a huge difference if the husband can be the one saying, let me pick out all the great things. Because what is it about us that as homeschool moms, we easily look to all the failures and that's the only thing we see? Like, we don't see the great things. We just see the, oh, but this math lesson isn't sticking or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're going to have to do that again, I think, Patrick. You and I, let's unpack dads in homeschool sometime. So, well, I want to say thank you. I appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate you, Patrick. And I hope that you guys left here encouraged. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us today. The Colorado Homeschool Podcast is a ministry of Christian Home Educators of Colorado. We have been motivating parents to disciple the next generation by embracing home discipleship that is Christ-centered, parent-directed, and free from government control. We invite you to join us in this mission. If you want to support homeschooling in Colorado, go to CHEC.org/donate. In the meantime, share this with your friends and make sure you subscribe. That really helps us. Thank you.
Brought to you by thepodcastupload.com, empowering faith-driven voices.